Welcome to Brainstorm 9000.
You got a brain? Your brain wants to listen to this podcast.
So open your brain.
Oui. Mais oui. Which means oh yes in French. Monsieur? Monsieur Hermès.
Hold on. What we talking about today? What we talking about today?
Yeah.
Dr. Schultz, let me know what we talking about today. Just sat here, let me know.
Pardon.
Oh, c'est la partie 2. Say part 2. Hey, keep the party who? Keep the party who? Keep the party with you. Keep the party who? Talking about these algorithms again. Talking about these algorithms again.
Part 2. Part 2.
Let me think of some words. Hold on.
Oh yeah.
See, I feel like a herb when I'm back with these words, and I got spoken word in my system. Got spoken word up in my spirit. Got spoken word with these spirits. Sipping on wine and Bacardi. Yeah, I'm just a rowdy.
Pardon.
Yeah, I go hard.
Pardon.
Hold up.
Pardon.
Hold up.
Mais oui.
See, you thought it was over. It's never so over. Cause I'm never so sober. Listen, talking about the rhythm. Listen, talking about the rhythm, the way the algorithm all over my system. So we back. Back with computers. Back with code. Back with the bros. Hold up.
Okay, gentlemen. Why don't you say oh yeah? Oh yeah.
What should I say?
Good.
Mais oui.
So, the brains of the internet. I speak with a pseudo-French accent for basically 3 reasons. One, because it's part 2, which is part 2 in French. Nicholas just came back from Paris, which is Paris, and Hermès, who descended from Olympus again, Mount Olympus, how to say mountain in French?
Montagne?
Montagne Olympus, right?
That was a guess.
He basically speaks French, right? Let's admit.
Basic. I can mumble through any language.
Right. So, in part 1, I don't know how to say it in French, part 1, we spoke about coding and algorithms in general. And now we are going to talk about how algorithms affect our life today. Hermès, do you think we are using algorithms like in our daily life?
Well, I'm not using algorithms. If I was, I'd, have Google billions of dollars, hopefully, at this point, if I figured that out.
You are not using any algorithms.
I feel like, yeah.
The algorithms are using you.
Yeah. I'm the one getting used.
So today, it's a very good point. I would like to talk to you guys, the brains of the internet, and everybody else about how algorithms are actually using us. Unbeknown to most of the brains of the world, but very well known to the brains of the internet who listened to part 1 of this part 2 episode, right? I'm in the process of reading a book which is called Formula. This book actually specifically talks about how our life is already run by many different places that use algorithms on us. I'll give you an example. We are recording in the studio, and in part 1 with Nell, our recording genius, and also the guy who actually writes most of the music that you listen to during this podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
We asked him to tell us what steps is he going to take to record us. And he told us, and it's an algorithm. You, Hermès, when you are on Olympus, also have a daytime job, right?
Yeah. I freelance, here and there, doing godly tasks.
Yeah. So when you freelance, you also use algorithms, right? I mean,
how so?
So an algorithm is just a list of steps, right? That you can describe something that you're doing, right? So if I'm going to get the milk from the refrigerator, I'm going to get up from my chair, take 2 steps forward, open the refrigerator door, reach for the milk, pull the milk out, walk over to the cupboard, open the cupboard, get a cup, put the milk in the cup, and then reverse it to put the milk back away. that's an algorithm. It's just a way to describe in very fine detail some objective.
Right?
Well, apparently, yeah. Apparently,
Right.
I'm using algorithms.
You use that directions, right, to get here.
Yeah.
How did you get here? How did you
True.
take the subway or walk, or how you open the door? Just how you're sitting is an algorithm. The words that you utter are algorithms. So there's algorithms behind everything we do. It can be argued that the whole universe can be described as a series of algorithms.
Yes, but more interestingly, there are certain facts that we can present that would help us to understand what's really going on. So I would like to quote to you something I read. So in the 1960s, the French sociologist, who also was actually a Christian anarchist, believe it or not, I don't even know what it means, whose name is Jacques Ellul, Ellul, described a creature known as a technical man. That was the first time when this term was introduced to us. And he said that a technical man is an individual who is fascinated by results, by the immediate consequences of setting standardized devices into motion. So basically describes a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a very vague description there. I feel like anybody who turns on their iPhone is
right,
a technical
exactly.
man. Or what's up?
Well, you have an objective, right? And you want to get there as soon as you possibly can. So instead of having emotions about it, processing it for a long time, you develop a set of algorithms and you go from point A to point B, taking the shortcut. And that was the whole idea that he suggested.
Sounds like me in school. Just any shortcut, you know what I mean?
Right.
Don't process anything.
And then another interesting idea was suggested to us by the American sociologist whose name was Louis Mumford, who created what he called the will to order concept. Writing in 1930s, long before the birth of modern computer, he noted that simultaneously for enlarging the mechanical or sensory capacities of the human body and for reducing to a measurable order and regularity of processes of life, it would be nice to use automation, right? So is it still vague to you, or?
I mean, everything is pretty much automated at this
Right,
point.
by now.
Yeah.
So
we're at a certain level,
basically a
Yeah.
computer automates a lot of stuff for us
right?
and allows us to have our life easy. For example, hey Siri, what is a computer?
You ain't treating Siri right. That's what
Maybe
happened.
not so easy.
I know, right? You blew it. You forgot her birthday.
Hey Siri. Hey Siri. What is a computer?
A computer is a machine that can be instructed to carry out sequences of arithmetic or logical operations automatically via computer programming. Do you want me to keep reading?
No, thank you.
She likes to talk a lot, huh?
Right.
Chat
So
about it.
no, she doesn't talk a lot. So what I'm trying to say here is that unbeknown to us, algorithms are used to help us, and some people even feel that they're beginning to be used against us.
That's correct. It's the whole Cambridge Analytica scandal with the elections.
For example,
Right. For example, yeah, there were algorithms that were used to target individuals on the internet and try to sway
right,
which way they would vote
right.
through manipulation.
And it can be very much personalized. Like, for example, reading this book, I was actually surprised to learn. And once I read it, it kind of became obvious to me that actually a lot of things are already tailored to our personal experience. For example, I have to admit, 90% of stuff that I buy on Amazon.com. Do you guys?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So if I'm signed in, the page that I look at is customized for me only.
That's correct.
It says at the right top corner, hi Edward or something like that. And then the recommendations until I start my search actually are tailored to what I like to read, right?
Mhm.
Or recent things that I bought.
Mhm.
Do you notice that?
Mhm. Oh yeah, no, definitely. Like
Right.
my homepage is just stuff I would
It's
buy.
yours, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Right. So I'm actually learning now from the book that years and years ago, in one of the stores, I think in England, people started working on the following project. It would be nice if you came in and they would know who you are, would be able to identify you and identify what kind of things you bought. So then the next time you come in right away, your experience also would be tailored towards you in a store,
That's correct.
right?
Yep.
So one of the things that I can come up with, for example, my trips to Costco. So I don't know whether people, the brains of the internet who listen to us are all from the United States, but Costco, BJ's Club, what else is there?
Well, Costco just opened up in China
Right.
last
So
week. The first Costco, the line to get into the Costco parking lot
Right.
was 3 hours long.
right.
They had to close it early.
So
Wait,
Uh,
really?
yeah. So when you go to
Crazy, bro.
Costco, they wouldn't sell anything to you unless you have a card. Actually, they wouldn't let you in. But when
Right.
you come in, and the last time I was there was actually literally 2 years ago, you just show them the card, like wave them the card. But when you check out without the card being swiped through, how do you say, swiped, sweeping,
Swipe.
swept?
You got it.
Swipe.
Swipe.
I like Swifting.
right.
Swip
They won't let you pay. So they identify you and they know what items you bought, right?
That's correct.
But my understanding is that the idea is actually to tailor the experience to the point that when you walk in, the facial recognition system identifies you, correct?
That's one way to do it. The other way is off your mobile device,
Right.
right? So there's a lot of different ways that you can uniquely identify a mobile device. If you went on their website
Right.
or downloaded their app
Right.
and they associated your login and your information with your mobile device, and you go in and they ping your device
Right.
and get that unique identifier back, they can identify you as the same person as well.
Right.
Wait, stop playing. Costco is doing this right now?
I know things like that.
No,
are
we
being
don't know.
Worked
We-
on. I
yeah,
don't
we
know
don't
who's
know.
deployed it yet.
No, we don't know whether Costco
I
is
know
doing
it's
it.
possible. It's
Yeah, it's
definitely
like
possible.
Skynet Costco going on right now, bro.
No, it is very possible. I'm pretty sure that it's possible.
It is very possible.
Right.
Yo, the day Costco is like.
I could build that for
yeah.
you right now. You want me to 10 seconds?
Oh my god, this is crazy,
Give
bro.
me a piece of paper.
That's
So-
really crazy, bro. But then, what is Costco using that to do? Is it just gonna
So
like
I don't know.
sell
Again,
me
just to
more
correct,
like?
yeah, I don't know that Costco's using that, but that is something that a lot of people are working on. It's a big open area of research in advertising. It's based on where you are at the moment. Like in New York City, it's the same thing where you're walking around and they know, okay, you're next to this store. You're more likely to buy, let's say, headphones. You're a big headphone geek. You buy a lot of headphones online, right? So maybe they'll put a bright light on the headphones in the window, right? So you can
While
notice them
while you are
while
passing
you're,
by.
while you're passing by, right, to try to grab your attention, right? Or maybe there'll be an instant sale there for a couple of seconds just to target you to get you to buy it. Or maybe the price will go up because they know that you're interested anyway and you're more likely to pay more. So we were using technology like this when I worked in video games
Right.
to do not so much the location based, but the personalization to target individual users. So I worked for big companies like Zynga,
Right.
right, that make Words with Friends, Farmville, just a lot of those big games that were free to play,
Right.
right? And in order to get people to pay and get money out of people, a lot of those experiences are personalized, right? It's all based off of algorithms. A lot of them I wrote that will identify a person as what is the probability that they're likely to buy any one of the items that we have for sale, right? And not only that, but when is the probability highest, right? So that way, as I'm playing, right, once that probability peaks, right? Oh, it's you're very based on how I play the game, right? Because everybody plays games very differently, and it could come down to how long it takes you to react to certain things, right? And that'll tell us something about your personality that we put together in an algorithm that gives us predictable data about your behavior and when you're likely to purchase something and at what price points you're likely to purchase them at.
Actually,
Well, hold on. A scary future that I'm
right.
thinking about right now.
No, it's not the future.
It's
It's
now.
today.
Yeah, that happens
Okay,
now.
but in a world, right,
Right.
world.
Today.
where I get a hot Tinder date, I'm walking
Where
down
he
Fifth
gets a hot
Ave, right?
Tinder
Right.
I'm walking past a Macy's, right?
Right.
We look in the store window,
Right.
and because I'm walking by with my iPhone that it picks up
Right.
on its Skynet scary system,
Right.
I look in the window and a fleshlight appears, and also a copy of Lonely Guy's Guide to Getting a Hot
In the
Date.
future.
And me
not
and my
the-
date get to see
Yes. Yes.
all of my business.
Yes.
Blow my whole cover up.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
that's
man,
the world we're coming to.
wait. That's the
And it
world
gives
we're
you
in.
like the sex bot and
no, wait,
everything.
that-
You're like, we know what you want.
That's the world we're in today. But in the future, we would know that you're with the girl now. So we would give you flowers because we know that you're not bright enough to think of it on your own.
Copy. So it's really my wingman at all times.
Yeah,
Like, oh,
right.
you got me.
So no,
Copy,
but
copy.
you're right though. I mean, it could go sideways, right? And it could mess up your data.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
give information that you don't want, right? But it's designed. The idea is we want it, as computer programmers and people in tech like myself, it needs to be mutually beneficial. It has to benefit you, because if we're not benefiting and improving society, eventually it's going to get shunned and it's not going to be used, right? So it needs to have a benefit to you, right? So in that situation, the ideal would be it helps you, right? But you're right.
Well, I
First,
can
it
tell
will
you.
mess you
Yeah.
up.
So maybe
And then somebody
yeah,
will break
yeah.
it. Somebody will fix it eventually. And
Well, I can
Like
tell you.
update like 14, right?
Yeah.
Or it helps you out because Shorty's into it, and then you guys are like, oh yeah, okay, copy.
Right. But
Same
that's
way.
love.
I can tell you.
Future love. I'm
I
sorry.
said, I think I can tell you, I said like 5,000 times, but what I can tell you is this. Since Nicholas works for Google, we'll forget about Google, and I don't know much about it, and let's not ask him any questions, but I read in the same book that if we allowed, which we are not allowing yet, due to very strict regulations of medical information to be spread, if we allowed a search engine of any kind, that's all in the book that is called Formula, to help us predict an epidemic of the flu, right? It would be significantly faster. Because the way it works right now, at least the best I know, is this. A bunch of people go to see different doctors, and they all begin to complain about, let's say, headache, feeling weak, and sneezing a lot, and coughing. And then this information gets processed, prescriptions are prescribed, people start missing work, and at some point, somebody in the Department of Health somewhere, locally, says, bingo, we have to announce the epidemic, right? It happens usually way past the time
Right.
when they could have prevented things by telling people to wear face mask. By the way, the one who is sneezing needs to wear the mask, not as much as the one who is around them, but that's a different story.
It's a fashion
I
statement.
think I think in Asia they got that actually pretty well. So if the search engine of any kind, which is very sophisticated, was allowed just to monitor the content of emails, texts, or tweets that people send, they could identify the epidemic on that same day. Because what if 500,000 people all of a sudden tweeted or emailed or whatever the hell, or Instagrammed about having this system? If there was a permission by the society for basically artificial intelligence to pick on it and tell us, it would tell us. We are just not letting it, but it can do it today. We are not letting it do it.
That's correct.
Or I'll give you another example that I read in the book. So there is a guy in the world, I'm not going to name the name, who is a supercomputer geek and who finally moved to work in Stanford. So he worked at the Stanford University. If you've ever been to Palo Alto, and I have, most of the people who walk around are very fit, right? Because, they are, they live in the Silicon Valley, they watch what they eat, they go to the gym, they go to Stanford University biking, stuff
They
like
also
that.
have money, I think is the key.
Yes,
factor.
yes.
It is
all.
part of it.
Yes.
Yeah, this
No,
is the main
it's an
factor.
important. It's an important part. I'm glad you are bringing
Because they
it
can
up.
shop at Whole Foods.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So he, at that time, was overweight, like 200 pounds, and kind of short. And he said that this was the first time in his life when he felt completely out of place because he's a geek. He's smart, MIT, graduated, always outsmarted everybody. Here he felt inadequate. So what he did, he bought, he says, 1 million books on dieting, read them and found only one that had some kind of data-based approach, which is called the zone. And I'm not recommending anybody to follow the zone diet. It's not the point here, right? And he started collecting the data. So he bought a lot of different things like, the watch, different applications that he could monitor his weight and his physiological data. He did have the money to do it. And he is a computer guy. He is a computer engineer. And at some point, finally, he started noticing that despite of all his dieting and exercising and doing a lot of different things, a thing that is called complex reactive proteins that he was able to afford to test in his blood. And the guy was like so in quotes crazy that he even sent his poop out to be analyzed because it also shows a lot of data.
Right.
So he was gathering the data, right? It's like the whole movement.
His show was popping.
Yeah. So yeah. It's very high. Like it's supposed to be not more than 1, and his level was sometimes 10, sometimes 15. So he
Wait.
went to see a doctor. Right?
1 complex protein per poop?
Yeah.
ratio?
No, not per poop. In his test.
Oh, in his test period.
Which
okay,
usually
okay.
is a sign of pretty significant inflammation. So he went to see a doctor locally, and the doctor listened to him, looked at the data, and said, "Do you have any complaints?" He said, "No." So he said, "Why are you bringing this data to me? It means nothing to me. Come back if you have problems." Guess what? A few weeks later, he developed severe pain in his abdomen, went to see a doctor again, and they diagnosed him with severe diverticulitis, which is an inflammation of the gut for now, right? And they had to treat him. Have they known to listen to him and took this data into consideration, right? And had the tools to deal with it, they probably said, well, the guy has inflammation, right? Let's listen to him. Let's give him a benefit of the doubt. By the way, they teach it in the medical school and nobody listens. I went to the medical school and I never listened. And I'll tell you the story in a second, why I started listening. They could have researched him, like could have studied him, and finally would have done a study when they put a scope up your butt and look into your gut and would have found diverticulitis and treated it before preventively, okay? Probably would have told him to eat a lot of bulk producing, bulk forming food. So when I actually was a family physician in Moscow, there was an epidemic of the flu. It was my first year out of the residency training. I was kind of popular because I have a personality. I know my stuff.
The cool kid.
And so I'm always, as you can hear on the air, I'm kind of confident. I mean, look at me with my Russian accent and mistakes that I make. I have a podcast, right? So there was no problem. So I was making a night call. I had to go out to see people locally, to like 40 people at night. Of course, I was rushing. So I come in. There is a woman, and she has a son, right? And he looks sick. And I spoke to him for 5 minutes. I said, okay, he has a flu. He says, doctor, isn't that kind of strange that his urine has no color? It's like water. I said, absolutely not. And left. And then she came back to my office, actually, because she liked me and told me that she hospitalized him. And it turned out that in the midst of the epidemic of the flu, where people had high fever and felt weak, he actually had hepatitis.
Really?
Yeah. Everything was fine. He didn't die. Everything was fine. Ever since, and I was in my mid-20s, ever since, I listen very carefully to what the client has to tell me and go for any suggestion they make. Because if in 1 out of 1,000 cases they are accurate, I might wind up saving somebody's life. Okay?
Right.
So coming back to where we started, a computer won't make such a mistake because a computer would collect. You tell us, Nicholas.
a computer would collect every single symptom that everybody complains about, right? What this individual in Silicon Valley was doing, or Palo Alto, is exactly what we would do with a computer. We would hook up monitors to monitor all of the different things that we can monitor and collect all the data from as many people as possible, right? And we would know way ahead of time which one of those things are predictive to particular diseases. It actually would be very easy to do given the data. And we could even take it a step further, right? If we started recording or noting environmental data, we would be able to associate environmental data like either weather patterns with diseases. We would be able to identify patterns globally. It would really help a tremendous amount and make medicine a lot more accurate. But we just don't have the data. If the data was there for us to study, it wouldn't take more than a few days.
I actually can tell you that amazingly to me and very disturbingly to me, my colleagues, people who work in medicine, doctors, are extremely technologically naive. Of course, you've heard about robotic surgery, right? Like, right. So
that's happened. That's a real thing.
No, robotic surgery does exist. The robot is operated by a doctor. Like, for example, right now, prostate surgery is done by robotics. Or if we need to remove somebody's gallbladder, it's like 2 little holes in the abdomen, and then the robot goes in, but a doctor is operating it. If you want to see something scarier than that, look at the announcement video by Elon Musk about Neuralink, where they show how the robot implants the thing, a chip, a microchip, which is 4 by 4 millimeters. It's smaller than your nail on your pinky, right? Into the brain with 10,000 tentacles. There is a video like that. So that does exist. Hermes looks very bedazzled.
They're like a evil alien octopus thing in my brain. I don't.
Well, it's not happening yet. It's not
the surgery
approved.
part. That's
the
surgery cue.
But still, technology is way ahead of what the doctors know. For example, if people don't believe me, read a book which is called Listening to Prozac, in which a Harvard-educated psychiatrist tells you the story of how Prozac came about and how initially it was rejected and what was going on with treatment of depression in the United States. In the 80s, you would go to the hospital for up to 3 years to get depression treated by psychotherapy on a daily basis, until somebody got sued by a patient who happened to be a doctor, who after he was told that he needs to wait for at least a year to get out of the hospital, and he had a bunch of hemodialysis offices, and he needed to run them. His family basically transferred him to another hospital where they gave him Prozac, and he got better in 2 months and then sued the hell out of the previous hospital. They started giving people antidepressants. This is in the 80s. Surgery also is, like right now, people have bypasses, stents put in them, right? Heart transplants. You should see heart assist systems when every single chamber of the heart is assisted by a device that is outside of the human body. But when it comes to using algorithms for diagnosis, processing what's happening with our brain, it's kind of behind. If I tell somebody that we have software, I know that I keep saying it, they would laugh at me.
Okay, but when I go on Amazon to buy like 2K15, some Lay's chips, and by the way, the cure for the chronic disease you have, all packaged together. If you buy it now, in the next 2 minutes, we can get it to you on Prime. Like, well, what happens then? Like, where does this go to for? Because it all sounds good the way you guys put it, but when it's all the same technological coupling.
Well, I think that's the concern, right? That's what's holding us back as a society. Is it's how now that there's more things that we can be prejudiced about, right? There's more reason for me not to get that job. Right. There's more things that maybe we want to keep private that are out there. But I think the reality is, privacy is. I mean, you go to the UK, for example. The UK has the most cameras out of any country, right? There's cameras everywhere. You can't go anywhere without getting videotaped. Right?
Really?
And yeah,
Seriously?
It's true. And it's part of the culture. They accept it. They don't have the same thought process mentality that we do about not getting recorded. There's privacy. Anything you do on the internet leaves a fingerprint, right? I mean, the privacy is an illusion at this point. We're holding on to something, anything, to try to feel like we're safe. But the reality is the data is out there. But there's so much of it, right? There's so much data that it's it's kind of crazy to think that people are looking at you,
But I can tell you that, for example, there is a program that I think it's called 750.com or 750words.com. You can wake up in the morning, go on the site, and enter 750 random words that come to your mind. I don't know how long it's going to take you. Sounds kind of crazy to me. And it shoots back to you your psychological profile very accurately. Or people actually came up with business that analyzes using sophisticated algorithms tweets, because when people are in a public space, right, and it's kind of social, they're more open about what's going on. So if you analyze their tweets, and let's say you are somebody who wants to hire, you can make a much better decision whether you want to hire this person or not. I know nothing about major companies that are using massive amounts of data, like, for example, Facebook, but I can almost guarantee you, and I don't know any details, any specifics, that Facebook profiles people big time. I can also guarantee you that if I decide to hire somebody, I probably by now can hire some kind of a startup to process them using sophisticated algorithms and tell me what are the chances that they're going to do well. For example, in this book, which is called Formula, which I highly recommend, small book, orange in color, the guy talks about now there are educational programs that monitor you. So when you study on your computer, the program watches using sophisticated algorithms how many hours you are active or whether you cramp for your test just a few hours before. So it might give you a grade, like when you take a test, it might give you a grade of C, you pass, but because you didn't study continuously, it will fail you. That is what is now.
That sounds like the worst thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, me too,
Sounds
because
like
I never
college
studied at
would
all.
not be
I
a
was,
thing.
Yes.
I was the lucky one that could go in and get an A.
Yeah, but
right,
what I'm
studying.
telling
I was
you,
hanging-
no, but
career
but this is
student
now. This is not yesterday. This is actually, the book is not written today. The book is written probably in like 2012, 2013, 2014, something like that.
So I think
Sounds like
what's
evil.
interesting is you keep saying sophisticated algorithms,
Right.
right? And there's a common belief that these algorithms are sophisticated, but they are not. I know they are not, right?
Okay.
It's not as these machines aren't as smart as we think they are. It's like it's basic statistics, right? For example, the Twitter, right? Is this a good tweet or a bad tweet?
What do you mean?
It's called sentiment analysis.
Right.
What is the sentiment of a tweet?
Right.
Right. One algorithm you can use, or I'll describe it to you in a couple of seconds.
Right.
Right, would be you look at a whole bunch of tweets, right? We take 1 million tweets, and somebody goes in and labels them good or bad,
Yes.
positive or negative,
Yes.
right? So we label the tweets. Then, right, we take the algorithm. What the algorithm does is it looks at every word that was used in all the tweets. We take one word at a time, right?
Right.
Right? We take the and we say, okay, what's the probability? Right? Just look at the. How many times does the appear in the bad ones? How many times does it appear in the good ones?
If it's a Russian writing in English, almost never.
Right, but that's what you're going. That's what you're
It's
going.
a foreign concept.
No, that's what you're going to see.
Right,
That's what
right,
you're going
right.
to see. And in the case of the expectation would be that it appears roughly the same amount of times in both the good and the negative.
Right.
Right. Then we could take a word like good, right, and say, okay, well, that appears mostly in the good ones. So now there's a positive association with the word good. So now that becomes your model that was learned
Right.
from that data. the computer doesn't know what the word good means,
Right.
right? It doesn't, at this stage, it doesn't know that it'll even mess up the not good, right? Because it's associated with good. All it knows is what it's seen, the data that it was given, right? And that simple algorithm will predict 90% of the time correctly, right? That if you use the word good in a tweet, that it's got a positive sentiment.
But
Right?
now,
So it's actually a very simple algorithm, and it doesn't need to know anything, right? It just looks at the words and looks at frequencies
Right.
of how the words appear, and that's called training.
Right.
And then it develops a model, right? The model is the words that it found, right? And the how well they are associated with the different sentiments that we're trying to identify. So it's actually, even at this point, and even the most complex neural networks that we've developed,
Right.
right, are variations on that theme. We just layer it, right? So there's something called decision trees,
Right.
right, or random forests or boosted trees. They've got all these fancy names, but all it is like, okay, now that we found good, let's see if there's an association with the words next to it.
So what you name is not a secret. I mean, everybody knows about these trees.
Yeah, these things are out there. These are the algorithms that we use. They're not complex at all. Basically, if using basic statistics, right, and probability, you could learn just about anything, right? The trick to artificial intelligence now, to machine learning, is that the number of combinations that you need to try sometimes, right, exceeds what is possible with computers.
Right.
So we've developed some shortcuts, right, to
Right.
eliminate a bunch of possibilities that aren't likely to be true. So that way we can solve the problem in a reasonable amount of time. But once the model is developed, right, it always takes a constant amount of time, a very short amount of time to test against.
But I can tell you that, for example, the computer who won in chess, right, actually was successful because of the exact opposite. So Kasparov, we say Kasparov in Russian, this Grossmeister, who is a super famous guy
Mhm.
and can predict 14 moves ahead. Still, when he thinks, and anybody else who plays chess, human, they remove variants that are not that good. Like in their head, they have huge libraries of what really works.
That's correct.
The computer didn't do that, and that's why it won, because it analyzed every single possibility over and over and over again, and meticulously responded to whatever Kasparov was doing and won. I mean, it took them more than one attempt to win, but I mean, first Kasparov, I think, won, and then he lost, right?
Yeah, because it's when they modified the algorithm to
Right.
do so without using these shortcuts,
Right,
right? Just to do the very simple, if I move this pawn,
right,
right, what is my likelihood that I'm going to win? So it's going to look at all of the different possible moves he can make,
right,
and then all the possible moves I can make in response,
right,
and do that for every possibility. It ran every timeline
right,
for every move.
right,
And the trick to Deep Blue, which is the machine that beat
Right.
Kasparov, is that it was a supercomputer that was capable of running a lot of operations in parallel. So it can do this very quickly.
So what I can tell you that what I read in another book, Harari's book, is that now Deep Blue is actually taking care of learning how to become a doctor. And a computer, based on what we just discussed, would be very able, very, very, very able, if it's not able yet, to outdo physicians making a diagnosis.
Oh, yeah.
Because it can gather and process significantly more data. Probably our brain is still significantly more capable, but we don't know how to consciously retrieve the information that it holds, right? But sometimes it happens to us. For example, going back to the beginning, you are meeting somebody first time in your life, a girl,
super nervous.
and you immediately know.
Not me, though.
Yeah, you immediately know whether you like or not. Sometimes could be good looking, right? Smart, dressed well, and you hate. You don't know why. But your brain processed a bunch of stuff, right?
Mhm.
And people talk about pheromones. Maybe doesn't smell the way you like, and you don't even smell the smell. It's subconscious.
The smell is real,
Right.
bro. Yeah.
And women will tell you that very frequently they meet a man who is ugly, bald, fat, but has something that attracts them.
It's
The
bald-
sauce.
It's the bald
Right.
head. It's the bald head.
Also,
Right.
yeah, I'm talking about
They,
that
they
too.
like it. They like
Right.
it. Don't let them lie.
It's a beam of light.
But for what is important for me is that I've been thinking about it because it kind of scares me. And reading this book, I'm beginning to realize that actually we don't need to wait for artificial intelligence even to become general artificial intelligence, meaning as intelligent as us. It's already where it needs to be in order to completely change the world. For example, in many cases, it could help us to diagnose faster, to tell you what you need to buy faster, maybe to match you to a perfect partner, right? For
Match
example,
me to a perfect partner.
yeah. For
that's
example, I recently spoke to somebody who told me that actually the field of robotic prostitutes is growing very rapidly, and people buy expensive robots because they learn in the process of how to satisfy you better. This is scary to me. I've never
levels of
I've never-
we just jumped
Just
a
went
whole.
left.
We just,
no. But this is
no,
an
no, but
important.
it's true. It's true.
I mean,
yeah.
it's an important human activity, right? I
What
mean,
I'm
we can't
working on
deny.
when I leave.
I mean,
that's
yeah.
right. I'm just kidding.
What levels of technique are we talking? Like, what do you mean the levels?
You're gonna
So
have to
what-
try.
So what I'm saying to you that, like, for example, there is this thing which is called TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation. So the way it's done right now, it helps with many different things, but depression very much so. So right now it looks like this. You come to see a doctor who has this machine, and the doctor, together with a technician, what we call maps the brain, needs to find a spot on your motor strip on the brain where your thumb begins to make this movement. How do you call it? Like
Thumbs up.
thumbs up, like goes like this. That means that you are almost in a perfect spot because it's located where the area of the brain, like next to the area of the brain that is allegedly responsible for triggering depression is. When I went to the last conference, American Psychiatric Association conference in San Francisco a few months ago, the Chinese demonstrated already a robotic TMS machine, which doesn't need a technician or a doctor. It finds it itself. Precision is 100%. Think about it. Okay?
That's
Okay.
so
It
wild.
is FDA registered. It's not FDA approved, but it will be. And they were collecting the data from American physicians who are interested to buy such a machine because it eliminates the need to have a technician.
And what is it? So what's the ultimate end there? Does it cure depression?
It helps with depression quite a bit. No, the machine does exist since 2008, is FDA approved. It's just not the Chinese one. It's the one where you still need a technician and a doctor
Right.
each time to find the spot on the motor strip in the cortex.
And what do they do when they find that spot?
They stimulate it for 18 seconds, giving 3,000 impulses that people don't even feel. We can do a program about it. But my point is, you don't need a person anymore.
Right.
So basically, in the near future, you can walk into a room, sit in the chair, and the robot will basically treat you, and then you'll get out. There is no human involved anymore.
Call me when the sex robot heals depression.
Yeah, well, I think they're one and the same.
Well,
right? I
it's
mean, that's the whole-
everything you
What
said
was
is
the name?
same
What
thing.
was the name of the famous singer Marvin Gaye? Sexual Healing.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
yes.
remember?
Sexual
But-
Healing 9000. Actually, I think is
Right.
what
right.
it's
No.
for,
But
yeah.
speaking seriously, though, even I gave an example of sexual robots just to show you how far this whole thing has come to. No pun intended.
Jeez,
Right.
jeez.
At this time already, we don't need to wait. So any minute it can take over this thing.
Well, so I think there are things that today the computers can far surpass what
Right.
we can do,
Right.
right? But there's still some limitations,
Right.
and
so,
there's a whole nother episode. We can
good.
have
So on
that.
this positive note, maybe Hermes can sing a couple of things about that, and maybe Nicholas can do his sounds.
Whoa.
Don't be scared, people. Artificial intelligence and algorithms.
I ain't gotta say a whole lot. Need a sex robot. F the cops, got 'em in the lot. Yeah, she like my lock. She go beep, boop, 1, 2, 3. Then she come and please me. Hermes got a fantasy. It goes so crazy. Brainstorm 9000 is the podcast. Yeah, we make it blast. We're gonna make it last. And we got the new inventions like the algorithms, the machine that learns the dimensions and the stuff. I don't know. My mind's on the sex robots, guys. I can't freestyle right now, bro. My brain's gone.
Oh, yeah. On this very happy note, let me tell you, please keep your brains
Wide open.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Brainstorm 9000. If you like us, love us, or marginally tolerate us,
And definitely, if you hate us,
then go on social media and give us a review on Stitcher, iTunes, or YouTube, or wherever you listen to us.
and remember, keep your brains open.